The awakening hunt. The radio waves had been traveling through the void for 47 years when they finally reached ears that should never have heard them. Deep in the darkness between galaxies, aboard a ship older than human civilization, Hunt Commander Zeth-Ka felt his secondary hearts quicken as the translated signals flowed through his consciousness. Music, laughter, the chaotic symphony of a young species that had never known true terror. Zeth-Ka's scaled hide rippled with anticipation, shifting from the deep purple of contemplation to the crimson of the hunt. His kind, the Nexari, had wandered the stars for over 10,000 years, following ancient paths that led them from one unsuspecting world to another. They were not conquerors or slavers. They were something far more primal, the ultimate predators of intelligent life. Hunt Commander, his sub-commander Veltar announced, her young voice carrying barely controlled excitement. The signals originate from a system they call Sol, 7 worlds with various levels of development, but their primary world shows signs of massive population density. Zeth-Ka's 4 eyes focused on the tactical display that materialized before him. The data stream showed a species that had spread beyond their birth world, establishing colonies and research stations throughout their local system. Perfect. A hunt was only meaningful if the prey had room to run. How many? He asked, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. Conservative estimates suggest 12 billion individuals across all their settlements. They call themselves humans. The number sent a thrill through the ancient hunter. The last great hunt against the crystalline beings of the Antares sector had provided sport for nearly 2 centuries before the final kill. These humans looked even more promising. On the primary world alone, the electromagnetic signatures suggested a complex, interconnected civilization. They had split the atom, reached into space, and most importantly, they showed signs of innovation and creativity. These qualities separated mere animals from worthy prey. Begin the approach, Zeth-Ka commanded. Follow the old paths. Let them see us coming. 3 months later, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was enjoying her morning coffee at the Proxima Research Station when the universe changed forever. The settlement on Proxima Centauri b was humanity's furthest outpost, a small research facility, studying the potentially habitable world that orbited their nearest stellar neighbor. The attack came without warning. One moment, Elena was reviewing atmospheric data from the planet below. The next, alarms were screaming as something impossible appeared on their sensors. Ships materialized from empty space, their hulls shimmering with patterns that hurt to look at directly. This is Proxima Base to Earth Control. Commander Lisa Park broadcast on all frequencies, her voice tight with controlled panic. We have multiple unknown vessels approaching. They're not responding to any communication attempts. The response was swift and terrible. Beams of coherent energy lanced out from the alien vessels, cutting through the station's shields as if they were made of paper. But instead of destroying the facility outright, the attackers seemed to be taking their time, methodically disabling systems and herding the 73 researchers and support staff into the central hub. Elena found herself pressed against a viewport watching a sleek alien craft deployed what looked like boarding tubes. Through the transparent aluminum, she could see figures moving within the ships. Tall, graceful beings with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like oil on water. The first Nexari to board the station moved with fluid precision. Zeth-Ka himself led the hunting party, his ancient armor inscribed with the names of 1,000 extinct civilizations. He studied the humans with genuine interest, noting their expressions of fear mixed with curiosity. Fascinating, he murmured in perfect English, having absorbed their language from intercepted transmissions. You show both terror and wonder simultaneously. Most species display only terror at this point. Commander Park stepped forward, somehow maintaining her composure, despite facing humanity's first contact with alien intelligence under the worst possible circumstances. Who are you? What do you want? Zeth-Ka's hide shifted to a respectful shade of blue. I am Hunt Commander Zeth-Ka of the Nexari fleet. We are the inheritors of the Great Hunt, followers of paths older than your species. You have been chosen. Chosen? For what? To be our prey. The words hung in the recycled air of the station like a death sentence. Elena felt her scientific mind struggling to process what she was hearing, even as her human instincts screamed at her to run. Your species shows promise. Zethka continued, his tone almost conversational. You have spread beyond your birth world, developed weapons, demonstrated creativity. These qualities will make the hunt meaningful. Hunt? Park's voice cracked. Slightly. It is our way, our purpose. For 10 millennia, the Nexari have traveled between the stars, seeking worthy prey. We have hunted the builders of crystal cities, the singers of electromagnetic songs, the shapers of living metal. All have fallen, but each taught us something about the nature of intelligent life. Zethka gestured to his warriors, who began setting up equipment that Elena's scientific training couldn't begin to identify. The hunt follows ancient protocols. We will take this station as our announcement. You will carry word back to your people. They will have time to prepare, to fear, to understand their fate. This is not cruelty, but tradition. You're going to kill us all, Elena whispered. The alien commander turned his attention to her, 4 eyes focusing with predatory intensity. Not all. Not yet. The hunt must be conducted with honor. Your species will be given opportunity to show their worth. Through resistance, those who fight well will be remembered. Those who surrender quickly will be forgotten. Over the next hour, Elena watched in horror as the Nexari demonstrated their technology and methodology. They were not mindless killers, but skilled hunters following rules developed over thousands of years. Each action seemed calculated to maximize both the fear and the fighting spirit of their prey. Some of the researchers were taken as examples, their fate recorded for transmission back to Earth. Others were released to serve as witnesses. Elena found herself among the latter group, though she suspected it was not mercy that saved her, but rather her obvious role as a scientist who could properly convey the magnitude of the threat. Dr. Rodriguez, Zethka said as the survivors prepared to evacuate in their emergency pods. You study the stars, yes? Then you will appreciate the scope of what approaches. The Nexari fleet contains vessels older than your civilization, weapons that have cracked moons, hunters who have perfected their art across 10,000 years. Elena met his gaze despite her terror. Why are you telling me this? Because the hunt is only meaningful if the prey understands the nature of the predator. Ignorance creates no honor. Intelligence, preparation, desperate innovation in the face of certain doom, these things create worthy sport. As the escape pods launched toward Earth, carrying news that would shake humanity to its core, Zethka stood in the observation deck of the captured station. Behind him, his warriors were already preparing the ritual displays, arranging the evidence of first contact in patterns that would properly announce the beginning of the hunt. On Earth, President Maria Santos stood in the Situation Room, surrounded by the most powerful military and intelligence leaders in human history. The reports from the Proxima survivors had arrived 6 hours ago, and the world was still reeling from the implications. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice carrying the weight of 8 billion lives, we are no longer alone in the universe and we are not welcome. The main screen showed the last transmission from Proxima Station, featuring Zethka's formal declaration of the hunt. His words, delivered in flawless English, had been broadcast across every frequency humanity used for communication. People of Earth, the alien had said, his 4 eyes seeming to look directly through the camera. You are now participants in the Great Hunt. Your colony at Proxima Centauri was merely our introduction. We are the Nexari, and we have come to test your worth as prey. General Patricia Hayes, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. Madam President, our analysis suggests these beings possess technology centuries ahead of our own. Their ships appeared from nowhere, suggesting some form of faster-than-light travel or cloaking beyond our understanding. What are our options? Santos asked. Honestly? Prayer, Admiral Robert Cross said grimly. If even half of what these survivors described is accurate, we're facing a threat unlike anything in human history. The president turned to the Director of National Intelligence, a quiet man named James Mitchell who had served in shadows for over 30 years. "Jim, what does the intelligence community have on this?" Mitchell was silent for a long moment, his weathered face revealing nothing. Finally, he spoke. "Madam President, I need to brief you on a project that officially doesn't exist. Project Sentinel." The room fell silent. Santos felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "Explain." 60 years ago, we detected anomalous signals from deep space. Radio transmissions that clearly weren't natural but weren't from any human source either. The scientific community dismissed them as pulsars or other natural phenomena, but a small group of researchers suspected otherwise. Mitchell activated a secure display that filled the room with star charts and data streams spanning decades. Project Sentinel was founded on a simple premise. If there were other intelligent species in the galaxy, some of them might not be friendly. We began preparing for scenarios exactly like this. Santos stared at the information flowing across the screens. "You're telling me the government has been preparing for an alien invasion for 60 years? Not an invasion, Madam President, a hunt. The signals we intercepted over the decades told us about species that had been systematically destroyed by something that moved from system to system. We began to see patterns, timelines, methodologies. The Nexari have been doing this for a very long time." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been invited to the briefing as the only human to have direct contact with the aliens, spoke up. "Director Mitchell, the alien commander suggested they've been hunting intelligent species for 10,000 years. He mentioned other civilizations, other worlds." Mitchell nodded. "Our analysis supports that timeline. The Nexari appear to be nomadic hunters who view the destruction of intelligent life as a religious or cultural imperative. They give their prey time to prepare because the challenge is part of the experience." "So what exactly has Project Sentinel been doing for 60 years? The president asked. Mitchell smiled, and for the first time since the crisis began, it was a real smile. "We've been getting ready to turn the tables, Madam President. The Nexari think they're hunting sheep. They have no idea they're actually hunting wolves." The lights in the Situation Room dimmed as Mitchell activated a new set of displays. What appeared on the screens made every person in the room gasp in surprise. Hidden facilities scattered across the solar system, from deep space monitoring stations to massive construction yards hidden within asteroid belts, weapon systems that bore no resemblance to anything in the public military arsenal, and ships sleek, deadly vessels that looked more like works of art than instruments of war. "The Nexari follow patterns," Mitchell explained. "They've been successful for 10 millennia because those patterns work against primitive prey. But humanity isn't primitive, and we've had 60 years to study their methods." President Santos felt something she hadn't experienced since the crisis began. Hope. "You're telling me we have a secret space fleet?" "Madam President, we have something much better than that. We have a plan." The hidden fleet 6 months had passed since the Proxima incident, and Zeth-Ka was beginning to feel the familiar rhythm of the hunt settling into his bones. The humans had responded exactly as expected, their military forces mobilizing, their population centers fortifying, their leaders making desperate broadcasts about unity and resistance. It was all quite predictable, and therefore satisfying. The Nexari fleet had taken 3 more human outposts, each attack carefully calibrated to maintain pressure without ending the hunt prematurely. The mining station on Ceres had provided excellent sport, with the human defenders showing remarkable creativity in their resistance. The research facility on Europa had been less impressive, surrendering too quickly, though their scientists had displayed admirable curiosity even in the face of death. "Hunt Commander," Veltar reported, her young voice carrying notes of confusion. "The human response patterns are showing some anomalies." Zeth-Ka's attention sharpened. In 10,000 years of hunting, anomalies were either signs of exceptional prey or indications of a trap. Both possibilities intrigued him. "Show me." The tactical display materialized, showing the Sol system in exquisite detail. Human ships were visible throughout the inner planets, but their movements seemed almost chaotic. Military vessels appeared, to be patrolling in random patterns while civilian transports moved between worlds without apparent coordination. They appear to be preparing defenses, Veltar continued, but their strategy seems inefficient. Multiple defensive lines with significant gaps, communication protocols that we can easily intercept, and weapon deployments that ignore basic tactical principles. Zethka studied the data for several minutes. The humans were either incompetent, or they were deliberately showing him what they wanted him to see. Given their performance in the preliminary encounters, he doubted incompetence. Interesting, he mused. Double our surveillance efforts. I want to know what these humans are really planning. 3,000 miles beneath the surface of Luna, Admiral Sarah Cross stood in the command center of humanity's most closely guarded secret. Project Sentinel's primary facility was a marvel of engineering, carved from solid rock and shielded by technology that made it invisible to even the most sophisticated alien sensors. Admiral, tech specialist Mark Chen called from his station. We're detecting increased Nexari surveillance activity. They're definitely suspicious. Cross nodded. She had expected this. The false preparations they were showing the aliens were deliberately flawed, designed to make the Nexari believe humanity was a typical primitive species preparing conventional defenses. But creatures who had been hunting for 10 millennia wouldn't be fooled indefinitely. How long before they detect the real installations, she asked. At current scanning intensity, approximately 3 weeks before they might notice the gravitational anomalies from the asteroid bases. Maybe 2 weeks if they get lucky with the moon facilities. Cross walked to the primary display, which showed the true disposition of human forces throughout the Sol system. Unlike the chaotic defensive positions visible to alien sensors, the real human fleet was positioned with mathematical precision. Hidden bases within hollowed-out asteroids, cloaked shipyards on the far side of planets, and most impressively, a fleet of vessels that represented 60 years of secret technological development. Signal all units, she commanded. Begin phase 2. The plan that Director Mitchell had outlined to President Santos was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to match alien technology directly, humanity had focused on doing what humans did best: adapting, innovating, and turning their enemies' strengths against them. The Nexari were superior hunters, but they were also traditionalists. They followed patterns that had worked for 10,000 years, which made them predictable. They gave their prey time to prepare, which meant humanity had months to position their forces. Most importantly, they saw themselves as the predators in every encounter, which meant they would never expect to become the prey. Captain Rex Thompson, now serving as Cross's tactical advisor, highlighted key positions on the display. The beauty of their hunting pattern is that they always approach from the outer system inward. They'll hit the asteroid belt installations first, then move toward the inner planets, saving Earth for last. It's ritual behavior. Which means we know exactly where they'll be and when they'll be there, Cross replied. Mark, status on the stealth systems? Chen's fingers flew across his console. All vessels showing zero detectability on test scans. The quantum resonance dampeners are working perfectly. Unless they physically collide with one of our ships, the Nexari won't see us coming. The stealth technology was perhaps humanity's greatest achievement in 60 years of secret preparation. Instead of trying to build faster ships or bigger guns, human scientists had focused on becoming invisible. Every vessel in the hidden fleet could disappear from sensors completely, existing in a quantum state that alien technology couldn't detect. Admiral, Communications Officer Lisa Park reported, we're receiving coded transmissions from the deep space monitoring stations. The Nexari fleet is beginning to move. It looks like they're preparing for the next phase of their hunt. Cross felt her pulse quicken. This was it. The moment 60 years of preparation had been building toward. All units, this is Admiral Cross. Execute Operation Reversal. The hunt begins now. Throughout the Sol system, hidden installations came, alive with activity. Asteroid bases opened camouflaged hangar bays, releasing sleek vessels that immediately vanished from all known forms of detection. Moon-based facilities activated weapon systems that had been tested in absolute secrecy. Deep space monitors began feeding real-time intelligence to a command network, that spanned the entire system. Zeth-Ka stood on the bridge of his flagship as the Nexari fleet moved into the asteroid belt, preparing to eliminate the obvious human mining installations scattered throughout the region. The hunt was entering its most satisfying phase, where the prey would demonstrate their desperation through increasingly creative resistance. "Hunt, Commander," Veltar announced. "Sensors show human vessels moving to intercept us. Approximately 40 ships, armed with what appear to be nuclear weapons and kinetic projectiles." Zeth-Ka's hide shifted to an amused shade of green. "Primitive, but admirably bold. Signal the fleet. We will allow them to engage first. Their desperate courage deserves proper acknowledgement." The human fleet approached in what looked like a standard military formation, broadcasting surrender demands and warnings on multiple frequencies. It was exactly the sort of futile gesture that the Nexari expected from species in the early phases of being hunted. What Zeth-Ka didn't see were the 100 additional vessels that surrounded his fleet in perfect invisibility, their crews waiting for the moment when the trap would be sprung. The engagement began as the alien commander expected. Human ships fired their primitive weapons, which were easily deflected by Nexari shields. The alien vessels responded with measured force, designed to disable rather than destroy, prolonging the entertainment value of the encounter. It was then that Admiral Cross gave the order that changed everything. All units, decloak and engage. The wire space around the Nexari fleet suddenly filled with ships that hadn't existed moments before. Sleek human vessels materialized from empty vacuum, their weapons already charging, their positions perfectly calculated to create overlapping fields of fire that left no escape routes. Zeth-Ka's 4 eyes widened as his instruments registered, over 100 additional human ships appearing simultaneously. This was impossible. His sensors had shown empty space moments before. "Veltar," he commanded. "Analysis. How are they masking their presence?" The young sub-commander's voice carried notes of panic that Zeth-Ka had never heard in a Nexari warrior. "Unknown technology, Hunt Commander. Our sensors show no signatures, no energy readings, no gravitational displacement. It's as if they exist and don't exist simultaneously." The human vessels opened fire with weapons that bore no resemblance to the primitive armaments they had displayed during the initial engagement. Coherent plasma beams cut through Nexari shields like they were made of paper, while kinetic projectiles moved at velocities that should have been impossible for human technology. For the first time in 10,000 years, Zeth-Ka felt something he had almost forgotten: the cold touch of fear. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted. "Signal the fleet. We are under attack by unknown human forces." But the humans had planned for this moment with mathematical precision. Every escape route was blocked by invisible vessels that revealed themselves only when they fired. Every tactical option the Nexari had used successfully for millennia was countered by humans who had studied their methods for decades. Admiral Cross watched from the Luna Command Center as 60 years of preparation finally bore fruit. The alien fleet, so confident and superior just minutes before, was now trapped in a web of human vessels that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. "Target their command ships first," she ordered. "Disable, don't destroy. We need prisoners." The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 20 minutes. The Nexari, for all their superior technology and experience, had never encountered an enemy that could predict their every move while remaining completely invisible. Their ships were designed for hunting prey that ran in predictable patterns, not for fighting predators that struck from concealment. Zeth-Ka's flagship shuddered as human weapons overloaded its systems. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the bridge as the ancient vessel's power failed. Around him, his crew worked frantically at their stations, but there was nothing they could do. The humans had turned the fundamental assumptions of the hunt completely upside down. "Hunt Commander," Veltar reported, her voice hollow with shock. 17 vessels disabled, 12 destroyed. The remainder of the fleet is requesting orders." Zeth-Ka stared at the tactical display, watching. Human ships fade in and out of visibility like predators playing with cornered prey. The irony was not lost on him. For the first time in his long life, he was experiencing what his victims had felt. Signal surrender, he said quietly. The bridge fell silent. In 10,000 years of hunting, the Nexari had never surrendered to their prey. Admiral Cross's voice came through the communication systems in perfect Nexari, a language humanity had learned by intercepting transmissions over 6 decades. Hunt Commander Zethka, this is Admiral Sarah Cross of the Human Defense Fleet. You are defeated. Prepare to be boarded. When the airlock sealed and human soldiers entered his ship, Zethka found himself face to face with a species he had completely underestimated. The humans who confronted him were not the primitive prey he had expected, but sophisticated predators who had turned his own hunting methods against him. Admiral Cross, he said with as much dignity as he could muster, your species has shown remarkable innovation. Cross studied the alien commander with curious eyes. Commander Zethka, your people have been hunting intelligent species for 10,000 years, but you made one critical error in your calculations. And what was that? You assumed that just because we were your newest prey, we were your most primitive. You never considered that we might have been watching you, learning from you, preparing for you. She gestured to the soldiers around her, then to the displays showing the captured Nexari fleet. Humanity has had 60 years to study your methods, and we've done something no other species managed to do. We learned to hunt the hunters. Zethka felt a strange sensation that took him a moment to identify. It was respect, something he hadn't felt for prey in millennia. What happens now? He asked. Admiral Cross smiled, and it was not entirely pleasant. Now, Commander Zethka, we have a conversation. Your people know the locations of every species you've hunted, every world you've destroyed. That information is going to help us do something that's never been done before, which is, we're going to hunt down every Nexari fleet in the galaxy and put an end to 10,000 years of slaughter. The age of the Great Hunt is over. The age of the Great Reckoning has begun. As human ships moved throughout the Sol system, rounding up the remnants of what had once been the most feared predators in the galaxy, word began to spread through secret communication networks that spanned multiple star systems. For the first time in 10 millennia, a species had not just survived the Nexari hunt, but had turned it around completely. Humanity was no longer prey. They had become something far more dangerous. They had become hunters of the hunters themselves. And across the galaxy, in hidden refuges and forgotten colonies, the few survivors of extinct civilizations began to hear whispers of hope, carried on radio waves from a small blue world in an unremarkable star system. The humans were coming, and they were very, very angry.